Well, let's talk to Professor John Hardy, Chair of the Molecular Biology of Neurological Disease at UCL's Queen Square Institute of Neurology in London. Professor John, welcome. Is this the end, the beginning of the end, or the beginning of the beginning of the end? I mean, how significant is this breakthrough?
It's the beginning of the end. A bit later than that, perhaps, because there was another drug with very similar properties announced by Eisai in November. This was by Lilly today. So we've now got two drugs, both hitting the same target, both causing a slowing of decline, as you said, around 30%. So this is a very important confirmation.
Without scaring us with the PhD science, how does this drug work?
Very simple. It sucks amyloid out of the brain. Amyloid is a protein which builds up in Alzheimer sufferers, like cholesterol in heart disease, and these antibodies basically suck the amyloid out of the brain.
And I know this is a really unfair question, but I'll ask you anyway. I mean, how much closer does the ability to slow the disease down bring us towards treating it entirely?
Oh, we're away from that yet. We've still got stuff to do. As you indicated, it's slowing, not stopping. So we have to understand why it isn't stopping, what other targets we need to hit. Maybe one thing we definitely need to do is get better at diagnosing the disease earlier. It's possible, there is a little bit of data suggesting this, that the drugs would work better if we could diagnose earlier.
To what extent does this breakthrough give something of a morale boost to the research of other progressive brain diseases caused by gradual damage to the brain?
Oh, I think we're, you know, it's always dangerous to say this sort of thing, but this feels, as a researcher, to be a golden era now of research in this area. We've had very exciting data in the last couple of years about motor neuron disease as well, and also hopeful data about Huntington's disease. So we're beginning to understand enough about these neurodegenerative diseases to start to chip away. Plenty still to do, but the air in the research is definitely optimistic.
You will know well, of course, that patients and their families seize upon news like this and announcements like this. Realistically, how long before this kind of breakthrough becomes prescribed?
Well, in the States, the Federal Drug Administration have actually passed this. So in the States now, the first of these drugs is actually available. How many centers are able to do the work to actually give the drug, I don't know. That's going to take a while, even in the States. Here, I'm actually at the Alzheimer Congress at the moment in Amsterdam, but my home country is London, England, and there it's going to be another 2 or 3 years, I think, before we pass the regulatory hurdles and start to make it available.
And what's the significance of the timing? Why now? Was this just a group of you? Was it about timing? Was it about funding? Was it about pandemic? What made it happen now?
So we've had a lot of failed clinical trials over the last 10 years before these successful ones. And we now understand why. The failed clinical trials prevented amyloid building up, but the drugs were given so late in the day that the amyloid was already there. And I think we called them failed clinical trials, but they were learning opportunities for us. And the learning was that we realized that we had to actually clear the amyloid out of the brain. It took several failed trials for if you like, the penny to drop that that's what we needed to do. And that's been, I'm going to call it the holdup, but that's how research is. You know, you learn from your mistakes, and that's how it works.
Professor, we wish you continued success with your work, and thank you very much for your time and expertise today. Professor John Hardy from UCL in London.
Thanks for having me.